All right, guys, welcome back. So I'm in my boss's office. She's telling me that this was all just blown out of proportion, and I think emotions were high, and people have issues letting other people be their authentic selves, and we should all just let this go. I was like, let this go? I was like, you basically yelled at me on Tuesday, called me a liar, put me on administrative leave. Not Jessica. She didn't put anyone else on administrative leave because the other people were white. I don't know. But if you were going to put me on administrative leave, but I'm telling you that this is what happened, we all could have watched the tape together and talked about how this transpired. But instead, you put me on administrative leave and sent me home. But then you didn't do anything to Jessica, you didn't do anything to Jennifer, and you didn't do anything to Elizabeth. I know, I gotta watch my hands, because next thing you know, I'd be like, she was making gun signs at us. But completely different tone. But then I was like, yeah, you see, you tried to fire me, said that I was the reason for all the division on the team when I'm clearly not. And no one else was disciplined for the behaviors that were demonstrated on Monday or for the lies that those were some pretty serious accusations that those people leveraged at me. And I find that to be unacceptable. And then next thing you know, I was on a PIP. Next thing you know, I was on a performance improvement plan. And I was like, why am I being put on a PIP? She couldn't explain it. And when she literally told me, I'm going to take a couple of days to think about it and we'll talk more about it. Now, I don't know if it's because I look younger than I am. I'm 40 years old. At the time, this was 3.5 years ago, I think, something like that. So I was still like 37. I don't know. Sometimes you get to work with these people and they just think everyone else is an idiot. So I was like, all right, let me see what this PIP is going to look like. This PIP had 20 plus things on it, and she put me on a 30-day PIP. And some of those things were big, wide company projects, like a learning and development plan, which was not my job. An onboarding and orientation plan, not my job. Talent and acquisition and recruiting plan, again, not my job. I was not in any of those roles, but those were all projects that my white colleagues had not completed on their own, and they found themselves on my PIP, and I had to complete that work. You can't make it up. And at first, I was like, I'm not doing any of this stuff. But to me, I really saw the problems that were going on there, and I really loved my job. And I had really grown fond of some of the people that came to me to talk about the real shitty experiences they had working there. And there were real problems that went on there that needed to be addressed and fixed. So my other colleagues that were there were like, I can't believe this. It's like, you don't think she's really going to fire you, do you? And I was like, I do. And they're like, but you didn't do anything. I was like, I know. And yet I'm on a PIP anyway. And so my coworker at the time, Rick, Monet, I worked with them to get a lot of the things done. And there's a lot more to this story, but I ended up getting all of that work done. And do you think she reviewed any of it? No. And in my earlier video, I explained what a PIP is and how your manager is supposed to interact with you while you're on one. Do you think she ever met with me to talk about it? No, because it wasn't about the work. It was about using the PIP, the performance improvement plan, to use that as a tool to fire me and get me out of the organization, because she really didn't have a reason to. But in a right to work state like Arizona, I don't know if you guys know this, but you could literally go into work one day and be like, hey, Barbara, we're just not, this just isn't working out. So I think today we're going to go ahead and terminate you, and today is going to be your last day. Employers have the ability to do that. And so for me, what Kim did was cruel. She made me do the work of other employees, treated me like I was a problem, didn't review any of the work that I spent a lot of time doing, and then fired me anyway. And then told people that I quit. And then when that story didn't fly, all these lies that they've made up about, I was just so bad at my job, and blah, blah, blah. I was always yelling and screaming at people, doing that craziness. And so 3 years later, I'm still waiting for my justice. But that day's coming, and I'll talk to you guys more tomorrow. Bye.